Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I want to share some incredible news with you. Missing 9-year-old Charlotte Sena was rescued today, October 2nd. Police rescued her at her kidnapper's home. They found her in a cabinet and he was taken under arrest. The governor of New York did a press conference detailing what happened, but what they said was that the kidnapper visited Charlotte's home around 4:20 a.m. this morning, October 2nd, to deliver a ransom note and put it in the family's mailbox. And from that note, they were able to lift a fingerprint that led them to him and to find Charlotte and rescue her. They say she's doing well, she's in good health. They took her to the hospital and she was reunited with her family. I want to share the good news with everyone. I want to share out the press conference so you can get the details. And they said more details will be coming out in the coming days. But I want to mostly thank everyone who even said a prayer for Charlotte's safe return. Anybody who sent out positive thoughts, positive vibes, thought of her family, anything. We all brought her home. Every single one of us. And I can't tell you how happy I am right now. So I wanted to share it with you, and I'm going to share the press conference with you. And thank you again so very, very much for watching this and sharing in this incredible news that Charlotte Sena is home safe. Our prayers were answered. Stay safe out there. And here is the press conference.
Good evening. This is a very good day. It's been a long 2 days, but tonight our prayers have been answered. We're overcome with relief and gratitude for this gift to all of us. And it is the people standing here with me that remind me why I'm so proud to be the governor of this state. Incredible men and women who were relentless in their pursuit of finding this little girl. Yesterday I held Charlotte's parents in my arms. David and Trish, I went to the campsite. I saw the place that she had just been a joyful little girl the day before, riding her bike, because I was on the road she rode her bike on, saw where she left it. And her parents were just so overcome with sadness and grief. And as a parent, I thought my own heart was breaking. And I said to them, I promise you this, we will bring Charlotte home to you. And as each hour went on, hope faded, because we all know the stories. The first 24 hours, there's hope. But when you hit 48 hours, hope starts to wane. But when Charlotte disappeared in Monroe State Park, it was every parent's worst nightmare. But I knew I would be able to have assembled the team of individuals who would not stop. And I want to thank at this moment the individuals gathered here tonight and all the men and women across this state that they represent. And the FBI brought in their specialized, trained individuals all the way from Washington to help with this search. But I want to thank Deputy Superintendent Richard Allen, Lieutenant Colonel James Barnes, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Mazzone, Major Dennis Shager, for their work, the New York State Park Police, Colonel Michael Dodona, the Office of Parks and Historic Preservation, Chief of Staff Randy Simons, Saratoga County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Jeffrey O'Connor, the Schenectady County Sheriff's Office, represented by the Schenectady Police Department, Police Department of Schenectady, Detective Sergeant Bradley Carlton, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Acting Agent in Charge, Alfred Watson, who I met yesterday on site, New York State Department of Corrections and Community Services, Acting Commissioner Daniel Marticello, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Forest Rangers, Basil Sagos. As I mentioned, when you hit that 48-hour moment, you realize it's going to be tough. and you start thinking the worst. But what happened was extraordinary. The case started to break at 4:20 a.m. this morning, when the family's home that was being guarded by state police, when the parents were still starting another day at the campsite where they'd last seen their daughter. 4:20 a.m. The car pulls up to a mailbox. Something is left. State police immediately go to the mailbox and identify what is a ransom note that had been left behind for Charlotte. State police worked diligently trying to find a match for a fingerprint. First one tried and wasn't successful. Second one was to identify any other prints in the New York State database that would be a match. The hit came at 2:30 in the afternoon. There had been a DWI in 1999 in the city of Saratoga. A fingerprint was found. That matched what was found on the ransom note. So, a little more research work to identify the location and identifying the fact that there was a home they could visit. They found a double-wide house with a woman, the suspect's mother. The suspect lived in the camper behind. They had what they call a dynamic entry, a tactical maneuver, and within the camper they located the suspect. After some resistance, the suspect was taken into custody, and immediately the little girl was found in a cabinet, cupboard. She was rescued, and she knew she was being rescued. She knew that she was in safe hands. Her parents were immediately notified. This occurred at 6:32 this evening. The suspect, 47-year-old male named Craig Nelson Ross Jr., is still being questioned. At this moment, charges have not been brought, but they are fully expected. The daughter was transported to local hospital, as is customary, and that's all the family wishes to reveal at this time. But they are united. She is in good hands. She appeared to be outwardly physically unharmed at the time, but we'll leave the rest of this information about little Charlotte to her family at a time they deem appropriate. Often these stories don't end up like this. Every second is key. There's a lot of pressure. Split decisions are made. Because you know, not just a life is hanging in the balance, but a little innocent child's life is hanging in the balance. So to the teams behind me, you work quickly. You work with great urgency. You put it together, the puzzle pieces. You're able to track down the location of Charlotte through technology, but ultimately it was the two SWAT teams, one federal, one state, that landed in helicopters in Boston Spa to rescue Charlotte. Still pretty overwhelming, because all of us feared the worst. But I promise Trish and Dave, they be reunited with little Charlotte once again, and she see her two sisters, one 10, one 4 years old. And obviously it's a traumatic event for the family and certainly Charlotte. And we'll continue to keep this family in our prayers as they heal. But she'll be going home. That's the story. Charlotte will be going home. That's all I have to say on the details. Certainly there'll be many more coming out with respect to the suspect and how that case will proceed. But I want to thank the media for their intense interest and the 400 volunteers who would not give up, 400 individuals from law enforcement, fire departments, city, county, state, and federal. It was an awesome sight to witness up at the state park yesterday. Everyone doing their job. But also, there are a lot of parents out there among the ranks. And everybody thinks, if it was my child, I would want everybody under the sun looking for them. And that's what this team did. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. You brought Charlotte home. Any questions?
What were Schenectady agencies involved in this case?
Charlotte's uncle was a member of the police department in Schenectady, I understand. If that's not correct, someone correct me. Fire department.
Was the suspect known to the family?
It has not been determined that the suspect was known to the family.
Who's that?
Was Charlotte randomly targeted, or did he know?
That is what will be revealed after more extensive questioning. The vehicle registered to the suspect, the address in the database was 2 miles from Charlotte's home, but it is not known at this time whether he knew her or had her under surveillance for any length of time.
Sean.
Governor, can you say, you said a letter was delivered. Was it delivered by mail carrier? Was it delivered by a third party? Do you have that information at this point?
It appears that it was by the suspect himself, that he literally drove up to the family's mailbox, assuming they were not home, 4:20 in the morning, opens the mailbox and inserts the ransom note, leaving a critical piece of evidence behind, his own fingerprint.
And I would assume the car details were also taken into consideration at that point in the same process.
There was it happened very quickly. Obviously it's dark, it's 4:20 in the morning, so it's hard to get a description of the vehicle, but there was some sense of the type of vehicle at the time when they left, so as they're piecing together all the evidence, it came together when they did the fingerprint match. It leads you to a name, it can lead you to a vehicle, and that's why we know that he had a home. His mother's home is where he was found. Again, double wide trailer, mother lives there, double wide home. He lives in a camper in the back, or at least he was there, but he also had his name registered to a vehicle, and the address was a home 2 miles from where Charlotte lived.
And this just came out of nowhere. He just showed up at 4:30 in the morning.
Apparently so.
Tessa, anything?
Have you spoken to Charlotte at all, or Charlotte's family, since she's been found?
I've made a number of inquiries to the family. This is a traumatic time for them as they're going through, her health, taking care of her health right now, and I'll be speaking to the parents soon as I can.
You said there was some resistance with the suspect. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
When we made the dynamic entry into the residence, he did give our sword operators, our SWAT people, some resistance in there. He was taken into custody. He did suffer some very minor injuries, but it was relatively minor, nothing big on the scuffle.
Great, thanks, everybody.
I just want to say there's still a lot of searches underway. The home that he was registered to, a lot of information, and so you want to make sure that he's not connected with any other cases. So that's why it's still an ongoing investigation. But at this time, there's no evidence of that.
At the end of the search, what was the extent, of the search in terms of the scope area that, investigators, searchers were looking at?
I'll let you answer, Caroline. But
Are you asking about at the
There's
park?
The scope beyond the park, I've heard reports that it was beyond the park as well.
The original scope of the ground search was within the park. the information we received that took us to Ballston Spa was obviously outside the park. We had no ground search operations going on outside the park other than leads we were running down that we were developing throughout the 2 days.
Great,
What
thank
did
you.
the letter say?
We're not gonna disclose that.
From this massive search, what were some of the biggest takeaways from this search? Now that it's wrapped up.
I would say the biggest thing is you look at all these people behind us. It's cooperation of all the agencies. You know, we don't work in silos. We have to work together to accomplish something like this. And you can never be too careful with your kids. You know, pay attention to where they're at, what they're doing. You know, things can happen in an instant. You know, Charlotte was no more than probably 2/10 of a mile from where she was camping in a small area, and she was gone for her to ride her bike around that loop would take her about 4 minutes, 5 minutes. You know, so you think they're safe doing that at 9 years old, but you just got to be cognizant and be paying attention to the things around you, your surroundings all the time. You know, these things happen in a hurry, and unfortunately today this ended in the right way.
Will there be
Any idea on the motive?
will there be any security protocols moving forward on the park?
We'll be doing an after-action report to identify any areas where the state parks can make any improvements. But obviously, this is a very random incident, and basically anyone who comes in and out of that park will have come through a certain entryway. Their name is, they purchase a ticket, you have their name in a database, so you know, that is why that's also helpful to identify who's in the park. So that's also in a sense a security measure, because we always know who's in the park.
Did the suspect enter through the main gates?
We don't have any, we don't know how the, you know, how
You
many gates.
mentioned 2 helicopters. Was the arrest affected by the helicopters or was the ground?
The arrest wasn't done by helicopter because of the seriousness of this incident. We brought in sword operators from throughout the state, and to expedite this, because obviously it was very time sensitive, we flew about 10 of our sword operators from downstate to be here to help with this entry. And we normally operate about 6 or 8 people on a team. We had probably 20 sword operators make this entry with an FBI regional SWAT team.
Tell them what the sword stands for.
What SWORD stands for is our Special Operations Response Team. They are like most agencies have a SWAT team. We do that type of thing with our SWORD operators. They're full-time in that capacity, but they also do other things that normal SWAT teams don't do. We respond to high-angle rescue and different things with that team. They're a highly trained, highly capable unit that we use for just this type of thing. This is what they train for. This is what they live for, is to make entries like this and save someone's life.
All right, thank you, everybody, appreciate it.
I have 2 questions. Is this going to affect how Amber Alerts are sent out? Because was there a delay this time? Because a lot of people are asking about that. Is the park back open tomorrow?
We'll already get back to you on that. I would assume it'll probably be back open, but